I'm so excited to have you. Welcome back to Bid on You. I'm joined today
Ooh.
by Jay Dean, the living legend, and I'll let you introduce yourself, but we're going to be talking about women in tech, Black women in tech, hashtag women in STEM, and just talking about our journeys as women in tech, how we got into it, how you can do it, put your back into it. I don't know why I had to let
Right,
that out of me.
right. Yeah.
I had to release that from my spirit. Why don't you kick us off and introduce yourself? Tell us a little about you, like whatever you feel obviously most comfortable with. Don't be like, I work over here and this is my social security, but just a little on the JD
Right, right, right,
background.
right. No, thank you. Also, like, this is so overdue. So I'm excited that we're able to probably have this conversation. So necessary. Like,
Very.
we're all the women in tech, we're all the women in the working force just trying to make it. Like, hopefully this will be for them. So I guess a little bit about my background again. I'm Jadine. Hi, everybody. I originally started as a college dropout. So that's
Period.
kind of like that's like, yeah, kind of the genesis of the story. I think people assume that I've like always been an academic and
Mhm.
always done things quote unquote the right way.
Mhm.
And that wasn't necessarily the case for me. I necessarily didn't want to go to college. I didn't know what it meant to work in tech. If I was going to go to college for anything, I was going to be an English teacher. I wanted to be with the kids. I wanted to be like, the English teacher with the locks and just kind of flowy and like
I can
telling
see
people
it.
to sit on top of their desk and like write from their heart. Like that was kind of the vibe. If I did go to school, that was kind of what I imagined my life to be is
Right.
inside of a classroom with kids. When I had started college, I felt like there wasn't a place for me originally, which caused me to drop out. I didn't have anybody in my school. Like I grew up in Arizona where there were no black people really. Like now everybody, like now when I go home and visit, I'm like, oh, there you are. I'm like, where were
Right
you
here.
15 years ago? I'm
Right.
like, I'm like, now everybody wants to come
I'm
because
about to say now
LA
everybody wanna
and
move to Arizona.
California.
Like, what's
Yeah,
that about?
right. Yeah. I'm like, so when the prices go up on everything else, that's when people decide to come to
Now they
Arizona,
come.
at least the black folks. And so,
Right.
huh?
Now they're flocking.
Yeah, they're flocking and now the prices are getting raised, but whatever, none of my business. I'm not there anymore.
Right.
But there was no black folks there, so I had no black teachers growing up. I had maybe a handful of black friends growing up, and so when I had started college, I just didn't feel like I can identify in the space.
Mm.
Everything that all the books that I read, all the conversations that were had, just didn't really feel like it fit my story. And so with that being said, I actually dropped out and I went to Bible school. So I moved across the country to Bible school, did that for a year, ran out of money, came back to Arizona, and I was working at a smoothie place. I was like 19 years old making smoothies, and everything was fine. And I was just trying to understand my journey. And my mom said, well, you can't just work and live here. And I'm like 19, and I'm like, what do you mean by that? And she's like, well, you have to do something with your life. And I said, okay, I thought making smoothies was like
I thought
like
I
we
was.
were good with that, but
I thought I
my
was
mom was
doing
like,
something every day.
absolutely not.
Right.
Yeah, you have to do something. And from the time I grew up, my mom always said college, college, college. And at the time, my sister was at university, so it's only natural that I would go. And so I ended up enrolling at the local community college. And then that semester, I ended up having a black teacher for my African American lit class. And for the first time, I had a black woman look me in my face and tell me that I had to make it. Like she didn't even give me a choice. Like she literally singled me out of everyone in the class. And she said, you have to make it out of here. You need to graduate and you need to go get a degree because there's other people that you're going to impact. And I said, we? I said, I don't know you. And her name's Dr. Westenberg. Shout out to Dr. Westenberg
Shout
from
her.
Uplands College. And from that day, I realized that maybe there was something in this space. And that's where I kind of started to explore different avenues. And one of the avenues I explored was journalism because I wanted to write. Maybe I didn't want to be in a traditional
Mhm.
classroom, but I wanted to tell stories. I felt like I was a good yapper and I felt like I could write really well. And I felt like, well, let's tell stories forever.
Right.
So I started writing for a local newspaper in Arizona, the only black newspaper in Arizona. I started working there. I just walked in with like, it was like the days where you can walk in with your resume and that like worked and got you an
Right.
internship. Yeah, so I had a little resume that I made and, dressed up in a suit. And I was like, hey, like my name is Shady and I'm 19 and I just want to write for the newspaper. And I said, you're hired. Can you come in tomorrow? And I did. And
Right.
I started writing for the newspaper there. And then I also started writing for another local paper in Arizona. But kind of the sum of how I got in tech and how I got in STEM is that when I was writing for the newspaper, I used to cover this specific topic on small black businesses.
Mm.
And I would go around, I would interview these small black businesses, and I would always talk about their impact. It was really interesting. It was never really about like an idea, it was always about impact. And they always drove impact back to the black community. And I thought to
Mm.
myself, like, writing is impactful, but maybe there's something else I could do. And that kind of was like stirring my heart for a little bit. And then I finally met this engineer. It was like this manufacturing company that these two black engineers had started in Arizona. And they were doing things that were amazing. They were using the company to also fuel fixing computers for low income kids
Oh,
in
wow.
black neighborhoods in Arizona. And so that really inspired me, honestly. I was like, wow, so I can do something even more impactful other than just telling our story, but I can actually be a part of writing our story. And
Right.
so that's when I went to my office, my what do they say? What do they call it? Your counselor's office for your university, and said I
Advisor.
need to change my major. Yeah, advisor. Talked to my advisor, said I need to change my major. I want to be doing something more impactful with my life. She said, well, what do you want to do? I said, I want to go into STEM.
What was
She
your
said,
major at the
okay.
time? Got you, yes, so that was when you were
Ye-
like, "I wanna write, I'm in journalism."
Yeah,
You're like, "Actually, now
I'm
I'm in
gonna
STEM."
Yeah, I'm like, actually a woman in STEM. Like, just
Yeah,
woke up the next day. I
fair
was like,
enough.
I'm in STEM. So I went to her office and I'm gonna do something in STEM. I want to do something more impactful with my mind because I knew I was smart. I always knew that.
Right.
And so I was like, I can do more. And so she said, okay, well, let's talk about it. We started talking about options. Like I didn't want to be an engineer. Felt like I just didn't want that path, but I wanted to do something very creative. And so I ended up studying something called innovation society and minoring something called digital culture, where I learned how to code, build robots. And to this day, there's articles from my university written about some of the robots that I created in my
Brilliant!
undergrad. Yeah, and then I ended up
Casual.
doing like this like leadership thing with President Obama. President Obama actually flew me out in my undergrad. I went to Chicago and met
I,
him
like,
because
didn't know
a
so much of this,
nonprofit.
like, I'm like, "What?
Yeah,
Casual."
for a nonprofit.
I
Yeah, yes. Yeah, it was really cool.
Okay, so Obama flews you out.
President Obama, and basically President Obama had this whole initiative in Phoenix where he was trying to, because there was a lot of Obama scholars
Right.
in the university or in Arizona State University. And so he started this program and I basically did some digital art mental health work with a nonprofit that I built and got recognized from President Obama, got a chance to meet him, went to a Bulls game. It was awesome. So I got to accomplish a lot of things in my undergrad through tech and using my mind. And I
Mm,
think the biggest thing is there's this quote by Pablo Picasso where he says, anything you can imagine is real. And I really internalized that. I thought to myself, okay, if I can imagine that, if I can imagine a different world, if I can imagine a system, it could be real. And I think that's something that I really held on to as far as like creativity. Long story short, ended up graduating, got some accolades. I ended up being my college speaker for graduation, ended up being the
wow.
speaker, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, like crazy. Like the college dropout, the one who didn't want to be here, ended up taking the stage. And I told stories around empathy during that commencement speak, but I think that because that's really what always have driven me is like, how can I be more impactful for others? It was never really about like, I want to be this person. It was really like, okay, well, even like God, like, where do you
Right.
want me to be? Like, how could
Exactly.
I be more impactful? Like, what does that really mean? And what does it mean to make an impact on the world?
Mm,
And so kind of to fast forward, that got me the degree.
yeah.
Then it was funny because, like, probably, like, my last month of my under no, probably, like, my last 2 years of my undergrad, I had picked up a job at a retail store. I picked up a job at a retail store, which was actually Apple retail, and I was
Spoiler.
selling iPhones while I was in college. And, when I was selling iPhones while I was in college, I'd quit the newspaper at this point because I already made, like, the pivot in tech and stuff, and now it was just about getting different internships, and I was interning at different agencies, like, doing some digital work with them. I started working at the Apple store. Right before I'd graduated, we went into COVID, and Apple needed some people who had a creative background and had the background of product, of like consumer product knowledge to do some work for their corporate. And
You were like, "Well, well, well."
someone reached out to me and was like, basically, your store director put your name in the hat to participate in this thing. I didn't even know what this thing was. They're like, can you jump on this at the time WebEx call? I jumped on this WebEx call and it was a leadership meeting for team leaders to support like essentially Apple like contact centers. I'll keep the story short, but they needed some help with some corporate stuff. And since COVID just happened, there was a complete lockdown. Basically,
Right.
like one of my leadership basically recommended me personally for the thing. I logged onto the meeting, was like, I have to be in the wrong place. And I was like, it's like, I don't know what this is. What am I
Right.
doing leading a
Why am
team?
I in it?
I
Right.
literally just graduated college one, and then also I'm from the retail store. Like I'm in the wrong call. So
Right.
long story short, the call was for me. So I logged back on.
Mm,
I ended up leading a small team with a couple of other folks for like some of the contact centers at Apple. After that, I got this role. There's like this job essentially that they post on apple.com for this like internship kind of thing that you call it. And people who've worked at Apple know the term, but there's essentially like an internship that they post a couple times a year and it's like pretty competitive. And everybody is trying to get this internship. And I'd applied for it and I got a call back from a recruiter and the recruiter told me, hey, I know you applied for this internship, but actually, I think you need to be doing this. And he said, he said, "I need you to be doing it was like a learning design internship essentially. I had no idea what that was. I had no skills towards that. He said, I want you to tweak your resume here and here and here. And I want you to, over the weekend, I want you to practice and, be ready because this happened on a
Wow.
Thursday. You're going to talk to a hiring manager on Monday." I said, okay. I'm looking up to this guy like, God, I've never heard of this career.
Like what?
I don't know how I met this recruiter. This recruiter got my name through someone else, which is the power of connection and networking and having a
No,
good
it's very
name.
much giving God was like, "Yeah, know her." Like,
Yeah, this
my
one right
daughter.
here.
That's who it's gonna be,
Lo
yeah.
long story short, ended up crushing the interview, ended up getting the role. It was like an 8-month role
Yay,
where I was, yeah,
period.
working with, I was onboarding, like, engineers and all that. It was just like a role I shouldn't have had, to be
Real,
honest.
unreal.
I shouldn't have had the role,
You're
but I
like,
got it.
I was just over
Yeah,
there."
I'm like, but for me, you're gonna fake it till you make it. You're gonna make it work. You're going to
Right.
give it your all. And if I was gonna get one shot to make it at Big Apple, which in tech, I feel like sometimes that's like the MBA. Like if I'm gonna get
And
this
I
shot,
don't even think they have real jobs. Like,
yeah, I'm like,
Apple's the type of place I feel like you apply and no one ever sees it.
literally ask me about what it's like trying to get back.
Yeah.
So I was like, if I'm gonna get this one shot, we're gonna shoot or shoot, right? So I was like,
Mhm.
I'm gonna research, I'm gonna give it my all, and it ended up being a really great experience. At the end of it, they ended up like deprecating like the role in general, so there was
Mhm.
no like hire. But I ended up doing like a series of other things. Realized I didn't want to do that, and I wanted to do design work, and so I started working for other companies like DoorDash. After DoorDash, I worked at TikTok. After TikTok, I got a chance to work at Meta. After Meta, now it brings me to where I'm at now, which I'm at Walmart corporate, which I'm okay to say that on the record, where now
Mhm.
I lead a content team, where I lead a team of
You
5
get it.
folks, including technical writers and content specialists, where we manage content for something called Marketplace Learn. So I handle the strategy around that. So I don't do any design work myself or any content writer content work. I really just oversee the strategy of things now, which it's kind of feels like a dream because I remember saying to God, like, I want to lead a team. I want to lead people. I want to be like that girl in charge.
Right.
And mainly because I really feel like my calling was to or is to help other Black women get into tech. And
Mm.
long story short, I have been able to do that. I have been able to hire on Black women on my team to be able to help to support the efforts that we're doing. And again, it's not intentionally, I'm saying on the record, they was just qualified. Okay. They were
Hello? And we
overqualified.
already know that because if you already
Right.
got the interview, hottest out, but you already knew that. Like no one is handing us anything. So
No
for
handouts.
the
They were
record,
very
woohoo! But like there's no affirmative action over here.
no,
Like it's very
it's no
much
D
giving dessert.
I whatever it is,
And
it's very much
even that
giving
is just
right.
rectifying opportunity because we've always been qualified for it, but I digress.
Always.
You've been able to hire and sort of open the
Yeah.
door for others the way it was open for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, that's kind of like my story. I know you have like a super powerful story as well. And like I know
Not
that
you
you've
interviewing
really
me.
no, no, seriously though. Like, and I feel like you and I can go back and forth of like, do you
Yeah,
experience this? Does this happen? This happen? And it's
right,
crazy. Like tech is a journey and it's not a linear journey.
at
And I think
all.
that's definitely a topic you and I could talk about. Cause I think when people
Mhm.
see like all the companies that I've worked for and the work that I've done, they might label it as success. But to be honest, I see it a lot of the times as I don't want to say failure, but pivots because I
Hello.
left or did something different because there was something that was not either fulfilling, rather it be a pay,
Right.
right? Like I'm not being compensated what I feel like I deserved, management leadership, or I just wasn't able to grow in the way that I needed to. And
Mhm.
so all of the shifts have been through me finding an opportunity that I actually deserved and not just settling for like, oh, well, at least I made a TikTok, so that's it. Oh, I'm at Meta, so that's cool. Or, oh, I'm at, whatever.
Right. That's so good. Not settling in and of
Mhm.
itself, that's a word that'll preach because I feel like there's a difference between like not being able to be satisfied and being like, oh, next thing, like clap for me, people in applause versus
Right.
is this God's best for me? And also
Right.
something I'm exploring a lot with my therapist is like things that maybe start out as blessings and then God calls you to leave them or you're like forcibly removed because he's like, I done told you. You know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
it's just to your point of it not being linear, these companies that we've been blessed to work at
Yeah.
and we have worked very hard to have the opportunity to
Very.
work at, it's not heaven. You know what I mean? Like with
Mhm. Mhm.
this is all on the earthly realm, not to get super, super spiritual with it, but it is like all of this will pass away. So it's like where I'm at right now today, I'm very grateful but, like, where God is gonna take me, only He knows. And
And I'm
so
so proud of you. Like,
no, we're not doing that, we're staying on cue.
no, because I don't know if the pod knows, like,
The pod doesn't know.
like, if they know, like,
If only
who's
y'all
the
knew.
host. Yeah, like, do they
That's fair.
know? Like, I think one day we need to, like, flip the script and interview you because I've been able to see you through seasons. Like, people don't understand, like, hey, there are previous seasons where your heart was so burdened by so many things and you pushed through and was resilient. And I think people don't know what it takes to be successful is real resilience, which is really,
Mm,
really hard to do. And to stay the course and to believe even against unbelief and
right,
this almost wrestling with God about what
right.
purpose is and what it means. And like now, I'm not gonna air out your company or like your role, but like this girl, yeah, she's that girl. Like I want to be like you when I grow up.
You're that girl. No,
Like
I always say that about you, first of all, like, we are just it's honestly legendary, like, we don't really think enough about how sick it is, but, like, it's legendary. Like,
yeah,
hello. So, I'm glad you brought up it not being linear and some of the bumps in the road and the challenges there, because I'd love for us to briefly touch on, like, what some of the learning curves were for you, and, of course, as people are watching, they might be thinking, "Oh, I wanna get into tech," but, like, I'm coming from like, I was a comms girly, still a comms girly,
Mhm.
like, my master's
Yeah,
is also an extension of comms, so I think there's so many different routes and ways to get there, but
yeah.
when you're sort of going down that path, there can be some bumps and bruises, so what were some of the learning curves for you?
Yeah, I think for me, a lot of one of the learning curves, I think, was the technical aspect. I think for a lot of my roles, it does require a lot of like, especially in the beginning, like a lot of technical design skills.
Mhm.
And you can't fake a good design. Like you
At
really
all.
can't. Like you're like I can't like so it took a lot of I think one of the blockers was being comfortable with feedback, right? And
Mm.
being okay with being wrong. Cause I think like just
Woo.
yeah, like, naturally, you wanna do a great job, and you feel like you
Yeah.
deliver a great product, whatever that end product is, and there was a lot of times where I put, like, hours and hours and time into something where I was like, "This is so good," and then I get back and it was, like, long story short, the feedback is like, "This is actually terrible," and I'm
Not
like, "I'm
terrible.
positive." Yeah,
Right.
I'm
Somebody
terrible.
lying.
I'm
Somebody is
terrible.
lying on me and my name. Got it.
Yeah, no,
Good.
literally, that's my mind, I'm like, are you picking on me? Are you" you
Right.
start to kinda go through this, like, it can't be that bad, but I think a
Yeah.
blocker for me was with having the skill set to do an excellent I think that's really important. I think people jump into tech, "Let me just do a pivot," but some of these pivots that we wanna do require a set of skills, and you need to be able to know what those skills are and to be able to be somewhat good at them and
Mhm.
demonstrate a good output, and I think, like, that takes time, and I don't think and depending on what you're doing, it can take more or less time, and sometimes it can be a little bit difficult, but I think for me, that was a big blocker in the beginning. It was
Yeah.
it got to my ego, I wondered if the role was for me, I wondered if
Right.
I had what it takes to be in this space, but it's funny because at one company, I was, like, not really that great, and it's, like, when I first started right after I stopped working at Apple, I worked somewhere else, and my work was good, but it wasn't great. And I remember hearing that for the first time, and I was like,
Mm.
"Well, I've kind of been really great at a lot of things up until
Right.
this
I
point."
only
So,
know excellence, so I'm not really
yeah, so
sure.
I'm like, "I think you're lying, but
Cool.
alright, show
Yeah.
me someone else's work." And then you see it and you're like, "Oh,
Oh,
okay, okay,
fair.
I see it."
Yeah.
And long story short, I ended up working my way up and ended up being the best designer on that team within 6 months because I was like, "No way I'm gonna" and I'm competitive,
Nope.
right? Like, I coach girls
You'll never get a
basketball.
chance to say
I'm
that to
like
me again.
no, never. You will never
So,
get the
hope you have
chance.
fun.
Like, you will not
Yeah.
like being a competitive person. I think has really helped. But yeah,
Agreed.
one of the blockers. I think the skill set needed. I think obviously like not having a lot of women and then also black women and black folks in general. Like, there's a lot
Mhm.
of gatekeeping in tech. There's a lot of like it can be really political. It's very
Very,
gatekeepy. I
yeah.
never had a network of people who like really supported me. And I'm gonna be honest, and
Mm.
I think that
Mhm.
that's a blocker. Something that I love even about you, Mercy. You leverage your network a lot. And I think if
Mhm.
people don't create a network, that can be a blocker in their career. And I think
Mm.
that that's really important. And that was a blocker in mine and honestly still
Yeah.
is. Like, is
Yeah.
something I'm still trying to work through. What does it mean to network? What does it mean to like build intentional relationships in my field or just across different companies and
Right.
staying in contact with those people. So I think that was a blocker. I think pay, getting paid what you deserve was a
Very
blocker.
much. Very
Like,
much. Continues
why?
to it's always the blocker in the world we live in, it seems, until the
Yeah,
Lord
I'm like,
calls us home. But yeah, that can be a huge one. It can have such an impact because I feel like, especially with tech, This is a moment, honestly, a learning moment for the people out there. Percent, it's gonna be like, "This is more money than I've ever seen," especially if you're pivoting into tech, like, it's gonna be exciting blessing. I don't want us to sound like we're like, "I'm starving," because people really are. However
That's good point.
however, okay, if you're gonna pay these people that and we're gonna do the same work, then you need to be paying me that. That's all we're saying. We're not saying, like,
Yes.
"This is fee."
Yes.
I'm simply saying equitable.
Yeah.
So, there's that. Yeah, and I think to your point of, like, the network and the gatekeeping, I think for me, when I first transitioned into tech, I came from a very difficult industry of music, and, like, that thick skin that you create there, I was like, "Oh,
Mhm.
I'm nothing can hurt me." You know what I mean? I was basically in the Marine. And in many ways, that is true, but also there is an assumption, I think, that was, like, double layered with already me being a Black woman and then coming not from tech into a tech company. It was like, "Well, you don't really know. You've gotta learn," and 100% learning, but, like, my skill set and my working, the gift of a yap is,
Mhm.
like, pretty you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
design,
yeah.
totally different because like, you're putting the product out there, it's we can look at that and see, like, that ain't it, you know what I mean? But, like, if I'm bringing
Yes.
the people in and I'm have the highest roster revenue out there, like,
Yes.
it's translating, you know? And so,
Right.
I think to your point, there can be the learning curve of, like, "No, I actually need to up my skill set, and I need to lock in and
Mhm.
get these things in my mind." Like, there's a thing happening on Reasonable Doubt right now where, like, her husband is a gaming tech executive and or designer, there we go, thank you, Lord. And basically, he hires this Black guy because he's like, "I want him on my team, I wanna hire somebody Black." And it's so annoying because he just doesn't have the skill set. He's writing the wrong code, like, all of this
Mm.
stuff. And I was like, "Ooh, what a tough situation." I'm glad they're touching on it, but it's like, far be it for you to get an opportunity and squander it. I
Right.
personally have never faced that I know of because I was always raised you have to be twice as hard to even be considered. So, I've
Yeah.
rarely got into a situation and been like, "Ooh, I'm not up to par."
Right, right,
100%
right,
can
right.
learn, and I agree with you. I struggle a little on, like, receiving feedback because of that, because I'm like, "Well, I already know I'm
Yeah.
locked in." And it's like,
Right,
"Well, you can always be better."
right.
I guess. So I'm working on that even still right now today. It's a process of progress, but I will say building that network is so important, and when you
Yes.
about, like, leveraging it, I always am
Mhm.
down to be leveraged, like, the quote
Mm,
that's all over TikTok now where it's like, "You can't have a village if you're not willing to be a villager." Like, if you
that's
hit me
good.
right now with a referral, "Here go my referral link," what is that gonna do to me? You know what I'm saying? It's not gonna change
Mhm.
anything, and, like, being in a situation now where I know what it is to be referred, like, the job that I'm in now, I met her on a boat in Italy 2 years ago. So you can't tell me it's not God. You know what I mean? Hello? Like, I know God can do anything, and far be it for me to be able to be a part of someone's
Mm.
story and not participate. Weird.
Yeah.
So, I think I would like to touch on, like, building those genuine connections, and even though it's something you say you're still trying to do, which same, like, I just recently went to Afrotech, and I feel like this current company, I feel like people are very especially the Black folk, but it really everybody, is very embracing, welcome, like, "Come on in, let me show you this, let me introduce you to this person."
Wow.
And my advice would be to seize that. Like, there's gonna be times where you wanna lay in the bed, you don't wanna go to the conference, you don't wanna sign up for the thing,
Mhm.
and this is the time someone told me, like, "You need to be at any and everything right now because 'cause you're new." And I was like, "But I'm not new
Right,
in my career, I'm just new in this role." "Okay."
right,
You know what I mean? Like, always be willing to show up will probably
right.
be my advice for building those connections, and then just be a normal person. Like, everything doesn't have to be, "Hey, let me hit you on LinkedIn." You and I'll just call you and be like, "How's that going with work?" Because we have a unique experience that we share, so we're
Right.
normal people who talk about it, you know? Like, I think sometimes we overcomplicate it, but what else is something that
Totally.
you're trying right now when it comes to, like, building those genuine sort of, like, connections across the team and across the industry?
So some things that I'm trying to do, like for example, I recently just relocated to the Bay from LA, and I think showing up to the networking events, regardless if I go with someone or not. I think like
Facts.
I'm such a person where I'm like, oh, like I'm hitting up anyone I know. Can you go with me? Can you go with me? Can you go with me? And since my group of people are really like, sparse here in the Bay, sometimes those last minute, like, hey, are you willing to go? It's just not
Mm,
possible. So with networking, like just showing up to certain events and different things, even if I don't have anybody to go with me, and I think like trying to have conversation that is not like kind of to something that you mentioned, just focused on work. And I think like
right,
for me, I spook myself out when I think networking events because I'm like, okay, let me talk about my job. And to be honest, I'm also one of those people that my identity is not in my work. Like I have so many other cool things about me that I much rather prefer to talk about. Like, for example, like I love like sports and basketball. Like I coach basketball, girls basketball for like 4 years. So if you can get me looped up in that conversation, I can talk about kids and youth and being impactful. Also, I'm like trying to start this coffee cart thing. And so like that's a big thing. Like
Not
family, I'm
trying
a
to start,
new
starting.
start
She's starting
not
a
claiming
coffee
that.
cart business. We'll
Claiming
plug
that.
it,
I'm
don't worry.
claiming that. And, like, being a new, I have a new niece, like, being a new auntie,
Mm,
and that's something we both share, like, we're
literally.
girl aunts, like, we have new
Yeah,
nieces, and, like, that's a full identity for me right now too, so,
truly.
anyway, so with that being said is, like, just trying to know people, just to know people, because at the end of the
Mm,
day, that's all that's really about, and not feeling like the pressure to, like, flex my accolades or look a certain way because, like, to be honest, I don't think that I look like what I do. I think when a lot of people look at me, like, I'm covered in tattoos, I have, like,
yeah,
this really loud style, stuff like that, and I think people don't expect, "Oh, that's the manager of the." I'm like, "Yep, I'm the 30-year-old manager. Yep,
right.
I'm the one, the tatted, like, 30-year-old manager." So I think for me, like, yeah, being intentional conversations and then also making sure that I'm in the right room. Like, for
Mm,
example, I was at like a startup, and don't get me wrong, I think being in different spaces, diverse spaces can be really helpful. But
mhm.
like, for example, I was in like this startup, like networking event that a friend of mine, he's like a founder, and like
Yeah,
him and
in
I
that
went to an
space,
event.
like,
Yeah,
nitty-gritty.
I'm like, I don't wanna talk about,
No,
like,
literally, I'm good.
NetSuite. Yeah, like,
Yeah,
I'm not here talking about, like, NetSuite and some of these other kind of, like, cloud engineering stuff, like, that's just
yeah,
not my space, so making
yeah.
sure you're also in the right space and networking and where
Facts,
people
that's such good
are
advice.
tied to your journey to some extent, like, still being
Mhm,
open-minded about other experiences, but I think that's been really, really helpful as far as networking, and I think, like, not being afraid to ask for help. I'm an
mm,
independent girly, so I hate asking for help.
same.
But, like, I realized in this season of my life more than ever, I have to ask for help.
Yeah.
So I think those are some things in networking. But I'm curious about how you would answer that because I feel like you're more of
Yeah.
a, like, you have a strong network of people and, like, the way that you network and
I'm like, "I do?" I'm just playing.
yeah. No, seriously,
I think
like
I really love connecting people. Like, it's one of my
mhm,
spiritual gifts. I just be adding stuff to my spiritual gift list.
I
So,
love
to
it.
me, like, my brain operates in a non-cringy LinkedIn way, I'd like to think. Like, if
Mhm.
someone's coming up with something, I'm like, "Oh, my friend is doing this," and I'm, like, throwing them in a group text, like,
Right.
to me, it's just honestly that brings me joy. I'm not saying start doing that if that's not genuine to y'all, then people gonna be like,
Mhm.
"Okay, you did that, ask me for a favor." The next day, it was obvious. So maybe like
Yeah.
not that. Find what it is for you and your special sauce. I was at this live podcast recording at Afrotech. It was Kimberly's podcast, Rich Little Broke Girls, and she had Jody Taylor on, and Jody was
Oh
saying,
my god.
obsessed with them both. Jody was like, find your zone of genius, and like for me, that's like storytelling, talking,
Yeah.
connecting with people, right? So my side of tech is that. Like my side of tech is
Mhm.
not coding, it's not engineering, but like it is interesting to see what all these AI products do at these people's company. Like I'm digging in and
Right.
I'm learning more, and I'm building a network
Yeah.
of people who do understand that and like who are designers so that I can be like, oh, my friend's a
Yeah.
designer. She does this, this, this. So just keeping in mind, like, they used to always say it's not what you know, it's who you know, but it's who you know to an extent. I feel like it's like I know
Yeah.
that you can do this, and if there's ever an opportunity to connect you, I'm down to do it. And then I just believe that when my time comes, you'll do the same. Somebody
Yeah,
will,
no.
paying it
Somebody
forward, if you
they
will.
will, they will, and I
They
think,
really
like
will. People are much more willing to help than they are willing to ask for help. Is what we've learned through this conversation. I think.
totally, and I would say too, like, anybody who feels awkward about, like, asking for help, or if you want
Mhm.
that referral, or if you just need some advice, like, please, please, please reach out,
Please,
you know that name, you know that person for a reason, and so just reach out and just ask, like, and I'm taking my own advice because I a lot of times get
right?
really nervous and timid because 'cause I'm like, I don't wanna be bothersome or, like, I don't know, like, ugh,
I just like, but
ugh,
also like, okay, is that
yeah, yeah,
embarrassing or is like being unemployed? Not saying being unemployed
yeah,
should be embarrassing in this
yeah,
economy, but like, would you rather
yeah,
be uncomfortable with the job? Okay, so hey, how are ya? Hope you've been doing
yeah,
well. Send that message. Boom. Like everybody, especially in the current economy in this America, people know what it is. People
they
are
do.
when they can help you, I think will be willing. And if they're not, then the Lord will bless you with somebody who is and they'll get theirs. That's how I see it.
I was gonna
Boom.
ask you, are you ever surprised of how many, like, I'm gonna say Black women specifically reach out to you for, like, maybe mentorship or advice? Like,
Mhm.
do you feel like you receive that a lot from our community?
A little bit. Like, it depends on I probably not also I'm not, like, the best responder in general of life, so there might be more out there than I know of, but I'm getting better, acknowledging myself. But, like, yeah, I'll be surprised because I'll often see someone who I think, who's younger than me, maybe from college. I had a girl reach out to me who's a few years younger than me in undergrad, and I was like, "Oh," I thought, just at a glance at her LinkedIn that she was, like, very happy where she was, everything was great, and she's like, "I'm thinking about making a pivot into tech, like, would love to pick your brain," and I was like, "For sure." Like, we haven't talked in years, but I don't think I'm ever necessarily surprised because I just think that's good, like, shoot or shoot, so I admire it because it's like, what's the worst that can happen? You can get what you want.
That part.
Do you feel like you have a good amount of people that reach out to you, or are you a reacher outer?
I feel like I wish that I had more people. I wish that I always yeah, I'm always curious if, like, people get a lot of folks that reach out because I wish
Yeah,
more people would ask me for help. I wish more
yeah,
people would feel like they can come to me for support, even if it's just, like, you're applying for a college application. Like, I have, like
right.
I have folks that reach out, but I haven't had someone saying, like, "I wanna be this in my career. I relate to you in some aspect, or you do something that I'm interested in. Can you mentor me?" Like, I'm always looking to, like, officially, like, just mentor someone.
That's amazing, and I love that you said that because here's an opportunity for the girlies watching, not to flood your
Yeah.
DMs, but
Yeah.
I'll throw your info in, whatever you're comfortable with. Maybe we'll throw your LinkedIn or your Insta, and then the people can reach out. Like, I think also with all of the love in my heart, I don't know that you publicize, like, talk about, I'm that girl in hiding thieves. I don't know that you really publicize, like, who you are, what you be on.
No.
So, like, with all the love in my heart, they can't reach out if they don't know that it'll be helpful to
That's
them. You know what I mean?
no, that is true. I'm just, like,
They're only
assuming,
gonna
"Yeah,
reach out
I can
about
help."
just to say,
Yeah.
"Hey."
Yeah.
So, we're gonna work on that for you. You build it, the people will come. And then there's other
Yeah.
amazing organizations like Black Girls in Media. You can be a
Mhm.
mentor through them for, like, a season. So, we'll definitely make that a goal, but I'm gonna if you're listening to Bid on You, it's gonna be an exclusive. Access to Jadine, come,
Yes,
first serve
please.
basis. I love that. So that's another way we're building our industry and our network, but I think I wanna kinda take it a little bit not dark, but, like, to give the challenging side of it just to keep reality upon us. How do
Yes,
you feel like
please.
you advocate for yourself in these spaces without over-explaining or overworking, or both, and/or?
Yeah.
Is it
That's like
possible?
yeah. Okay, so this is a really tough, tough, tough question because I think, unfortunately, at least in my journey, I felt like I did have to I don't have the grace maybe that other people have to be mediocre or have a off day. I honestly don't feel like I have I don't feel like I have that. Even now as a manager, I feel
Mm,
like I feel it even more so, right? Like that I don't have opportunity to have an off day. And like, for example, like I was not feeling well all last week and I had to take a day off Friday, and I remember, like, talking to one of my friends about it, like, I feel like a terrible person taking it
mm,
off. I feel like all this stuff's happening. It's not and then not because someone said anything, but just, like, this internal pressure that I feel like that I feel that I'm trying to work through just personally because I've always had, like, really high standards and expectations for myself. And I think, to your question of, like what's the beginning part of it again?
just how do you advocate for yourself without kind of, like, over-explaining, overworking?
Yeah, I think one of the things now that I'm 30, I think this is something that I've started to think about more is that, like, it's still just a job. Like
Mm,
and I know, like, it has to start from there. Like, at the end of the day, this is great. I'm so grateful every day. I don't wake up thinking like, I'm the it girl. Like, I still have, I'm sure, tons of to learn, but
yeah.
it is just a job, and I'm not doing brain surgery, I'm not like,
Mhm.
this is
Saving
not like
lives.
yeah, this is not saving lives. And so, like, if things go wrong, if I need extra time, if I need more, if I need to take the day off, whatever I need to just, like, chalk it up to this at the end of the day, this is just a job, and, like,
Mm,
be okay with humanizing my experience because I don't have like a shared experience with a lot of people that I end up working with. I feel like I'm always feeling like I'm fighting for space and that my story, what I'm saying is always kind of misinterpreted, even especially in the design space when you're trying to design even inclusively. Like I know there was a time where like I was designing, for example, like characters and people were, like, throwing out some of the diversity I added in my characters, and that was just, like, a weird thing. And, like, being the only Black person there, like, there's no one to help advocate for, like, why are things should look diverse. We should at least
It should look
look
like
like
the
we
world
appear
around us.
diverse,
Right.
you know, like, at least the general population, we should
Yeah.
reflect, like, our users, right? And so I think something that can be really tiresome is advocating for yourself. And I feel like I've had to learn to advocate well in the sense that not every fight is a fight. I can't
We.
I can't lean into everything, and I really have to trust God and pray and use discernment on
Mhm.
what needs to be I need to speak up for. Like, there are just some things in the job where I think, like, happen in tech, like, there's just some chaos that just is the nature of tech, and then there's things that are, like, fundamentally wrong. Like, I've legit, like, have experienced some racism in my job where I've had to escalate things to HR. I've had to advocate for myself on the highest level because if I didn't, nobody else would. And I valued myself and my work and my like worth in the world
Right.
like enough to go up to someone and say, "Hey, someone said this and that made me feel uncomfortable, or someone did this, put me in this situation, said X, Y, and Z." You know, that without saying too much, that wasn't really received really well in that HR experience. But that's when I knew in my head that this wasn't a place where I could be long term. And that's
Mhm.
another thing about being and just being a working person is a way you can advocate is to move on. Like, they
Ooh-wee.
don't they don't they don't
You're spitting on these folks.
girl, because
Wow.
you don't have to stay there. That's another thing. Like, I know the economy is
Yeah.
bad, but if you trust in God, it's hard, but you don't have to be there. And I think you
And we
have to
not
remember
advising
that.
nobody quit their job, but I'm
Right,
advising you
right,
to put
right,
your
right.
hand in the
That was
Lord's, leverage your network, do all the things that we're saying, and move
yeah,
on. But yeah, like, there doesn't
yes.
always have to be a fight to change the system from within, and, like, that's a season of life that I'm now on the other side of, and it feels very foreign because 'cause I'm so used to being
Mm,
like, "Stand up and be the martyr," and now
mhm.
I think what you said hit me so much because it's like, what fight is worth jumping into? That's
Yeah,
really where the wisdom is. It's not having no fight at all, and it's also not fighting every single battle, but it's like, which ones
yes.
are worth it?
And it's your mental health is at stake. Your psychological safety is at stake, right?
Facts.
And I think when you start to tread into like, is this job psychologically safe for me? And if the answer is no, or kind of, or when you log out, you feel dark, heavy, you feel like people aren't treating you right, you feel like, just whatever the case may be. I think that's when the advocacy looks like sometimes it's not, making a big scene, complaining, because sometimes doing that doesn't change anything. And sometimes it does. But in a lot of cases, at least for these bigger companies, I feel like it just doesn't. But there are companies that, like, for example, like even your story, Marissa, where you're at in your career, where people are treating you right, and you're finally, I mean, not finally, because I know you've experienced like goodness in other roles, but just knowing what I know about you is that not everyone has treated you right. Not everyone deserved Marissa, and I think like not everybody deserves me. Not every company with a big name deserves me,
Not crying.
and
Yeah.
and I'm literally okay with, like, at this point in my career and people see so many different experience, like, "Oh, you're killing it." Sometimes, like, they were I mean,
Somebody was
not
killing
killing
me.
me.
Yeah. I'm saying, "Hello? I'm killing it or it's killing me. Hello?" Oh, mm-mm,
Girl, I had to
mm-mm.
go.
That'll
And then
preach.
like, I had to go, and that set me up for something, right? And
Yeah.
so and that something ended up being greater because I feel like
Yes.
too, like, whatever people try to throw on you, you use that and you
Mhm.
grow out of the dirt, right?
Hello?
You become
Come on.
stronger. It's like fuel, and it
Period.
doesn't seem like it in the moment. And Steve Jobs
No.
has this quote that I always think about, but it says, "You can't," he said this at a commencement speak, "but you can't connect the dots until you look back." And that's
Mhm.
usually how it is in your career. In the time you're like, "This person treated me like this, da, 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 I need to move on. I can't find a job. Da, 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 they're not paying me this. Da, da, da." All this doesn't make sense, and it's so confusing
Right.
and so hard. And you're trying to advocate for yourself. No one's listening. No one cares. And then
Mhm.
suddenly you get to a point where you look back and you go, I had to go through that. So that way this position that I'm in now, I'm able to crush it with confidence, wisdom, self-worth, resilience. And I'm also able to look back and mentor and have conversations like this to encourage the next woman. And I think like I wish I didn't have to go through all that. But if I have to go through all
Hello?
that just to sit here and be like, you're gonna be okay, you're gonna make
Yeah.
it, and you deserve more, then that was worth it for me. So anyway, I don't know what that is.
Girl, and y'all want this is why we had her on the show, okay? Among why I have her in my life because I just got
Right,
blessed
I
by
love
it.
you.
I don't care if nobody else does. I'm blessed.
I'm so
Goodbye.
blessed.
I was literally gonna end with, like, what we call bids on the show, which is just, like, questions, letters, et ceteras that people can write in, like, DM us. But someone asked, we've touched on this a lot, so I don't even know if we have to go that deep into it because you sort of just answered it. But they were just
Mhm.
like, what advice would you give like the younger version of yourself who's just starting out in tech? So this is the girlies who are like, I want to be there, but I don't know how to get started. And I feel like you just touched on it. But if there's any quick little quip you'd want to give the people,
Yeah.
Jay
Oh.
Dean of yesteryear, what would that be?
I think I would just remind her to trust God.
Mm.
I know that that's, like, that seems very, like, "Woo," like, not really, like, concrete advice, but I think that's the tricky thing about faith is, like, believing in something unseen, and
Hello.
that I would tell her that the things that you believed in that were unseen really came to fruition. Like, it really did. And not only that, but, like, now that you're starting to see things go into fruition, I would challenge myself back then to go higher. Like, why did I not dream
Dream
bigger?
bigger. Dream it and then dream it some more. Facts.
And then dream it again and
Hello.
and just keep expanding on that because I think that I
Yes.
boxed God in my career of like what like tech, but even
Mhm.
as tech like evolves, like tech is so it's in the intersection of all different fields, right? It's the intersection of media, it's the intersection of sports and entertainment and like tech is the
Yeah.
intersection of all things. And I think like like whatever 10 years ago when I was in my undergrad, I didn't think about that, right? It
Yeah.
was just like technology and it's like, no, no, no. It's the intersection of everything that's happening. And
Right.
yeah, I would just tell my younger self to just dream bigger. Like yeah, you thought a little too small.
I love that. And I think as the great philosopher Hannah Montana once said, "Life's what you make it, so let's make it raw."
I love
Is
it.
basically what we just said because you can really dream it up and make it whatever you want it to be. There's so many paths. Maybe you are a coder girl, maybe you're a
Yeah.
software engineer, maybe you're a designer, maybe you're a product, maybe you're so organized that you're literally the like, what are the people, the project managers? Like maybe you're
Yeah.
that. And then maybe you're
Right.
a yapper, and you
Really?
work with creators and you
Yeah.
work on the comms team. Like there's so many different, as we would say in the South, different ways to skin a cat. But there's just so many different ways to get there. And I think from JD and I's story, what stands out the most is like your way is so individual to you, trusting God to shape that path. And probably what I
Yeah.
would myself in that same vein is like you're just getting started. Like you ain't seen nothing yet. So I'd say that for then, and Lord willing, I'll say that for now. I'll speak that out in faith. I love that.
I do
Thank you
too.
so much. It's blessed
Thank
me, truly.
No, thank you. It's funny too because I was just gonna ask you how you would respond, and I think like, yeah, I love that response.
Oh,
That's beautiful. Thank you for having
love
me, and
you.
yeah, let your audience know if anybody needs a mentor or needs a friend or
Look,
needs a
we
sister.
got a
Like,
plug.
I'm here for you.
I love that.
Yes.
I love you. I think so many women in tech and just women in general and Black women needed to hear that they're not alone. And so hopefully by some of our stories and a glimpse into that, they can just be reminded that thriving doesn't always mean like overworking yourself, picking every battle to prove that you belong.
No.
Sometimes thriving is just finding the right people to build with along the
Yes.
way. And so if you enjoyed this conversation, make sure y'all subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, follow the show wherever you get your podcast. And until then, we can't wait to bid on you. We'll see you next time.